The first thing they noticed was the silence. Not the absence of sound, but the absence of pattern. Across the outer listening posts of the Varelian network, signals were always clean, structured, predictable. Even chaos had rules. Even dying stars sang in measurable rhythms. But this transmission didn't follow anything. It broke the rules. At first, it was dismissed as interference, a glitch, a dying relay somewhere beyond map space. But then it appeared again, and again, and again. Always the same origin, always the same impossible distortion, and always spreading. No one could explain how a signal with no identifiable carrier wave was being picked up simultaneously across systems light years apart. That alone should have been impossible. Signals degraded. They faded. They obeyed physics. This one didn't. It propagated, like a thought, or an infection. Deep inside listening station Theta 9, analyst Saran leaned forward, her eyes locked on the waveform dancing across her display. It jittered violently, spikes and valleys breaking every known model. "This isn't noise," she whispered. Her superior, Commander Vel, stepped closer. "Then what is it?" Saran hesitated. She didn't like the answer forming in her mind. "It's structured, but not consistently, like it's trying to be understood, or maybe trying to understand us." Vel's expression hardened. "Play it." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the speakers activated. At first, it was static. Raw, violent, chaotic static. But beneath it, something moved. A rhythm. Uneven, erratic, breathing almost. Then came the images. They weren't transmitted in any recognized format, yet the system translated them anyway, as if the signal itself forced comprehension. A battlefield. Smoke. Fire. Ruined structures. And figures. Humans. Saran had seen human files before, brief, incomplete entries in the Galactic Archives. A developing species. Primitive. Emotionally unstable. Not yet considered a threat. What she saw now didn't match those reports. The humans weren't organized. There were no formations. No clean lines. No synchronized movements. They were scattered. Running. Charging. Crawling. Screaming. One human leapt over debris, tackling a much larger armored figure to the ground. Another fired wildly, not with precision, but with raw intent, adjusting mid-action, adapting faster than any trained unit should. A third, injured, bleeding, kept moving forward, not retreating, not surrendering, advancing. Saran felt a chill crawl through her spine. "This is wrong," she murmured. "There's no command structure, no coordination grid. They're not following orders." Vel's voice was low. "Then how are they fighting?" The transmission answered. The perspective shifted abruptly. Now it was closer, personal, as if seen through the eyes of something else, something watching them, tracking them. Fear. That was the only word Saran could use for the sensation embedded in the signal. It wasn't just visual data. It carried emotion, raw, unfiltered. Fear of the humans. A towering alien figure, clearly superior in size and technology, raised a weapon. Precise. Controlled. It fired. The human it targeted should have been eliminated instantly. But it wasn't. The human moved. Not in a calculated dodge. Not in a pre-programmed evasive maneuver. It reacted. Instinctively. Wildly. It stumbled, rolled, crashed into cover, then came back up firing. Its aim chaotic, unpredictable. And effective. The alien staggered. The signal distorted violently. Audio cut through. Not language. Sound. Human sound. A scream. Not of pain. Of rage. Saran flinched. "Pause it." The room fell silent again. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Vel asked the question none of them wanted to say out loud. "What are we looking at?" Saran swallowed. "Combat footage. But not like anything in our database." She hesitated again, then forced the words out. "They don't fight like a species." Vel frowned. "Explain." "They fight like," she searched for the closest equivalent, "like separate entities sharing the same goal. No uniformity. No predictability. Every movement is different." She looked back at the frozen frame, the human mid-motion, eyes wide, teeth clenched. They don't behave like trained soldiers. Vel crossed his arms. Then what are they? Saran's voice dropped. Animals. The word hung in the air like a contamination. Before anyone could respond, the system pulsed again. The transmission resumed on its own. Stronger this time. Clearer. Spreading. Across the display, new feeds opened automatically. Other stations. Other systems. All receiving the same signal. All at once. That's not possible, one of the technicians whispered. There's no relay chain. No delay. It's instantaneous. Vel turned sharply. Shut it down. We can't, the technician replied, panic creeping into his voice. It's not coming through our receivers anymore. Saran's eyes widened. Then how? The answer came before the question finished. The signal wasn't being received. It was already there, embedded, inside their systems, inside their networks, inside their minds. The images shifted again, faster now, more violent. Humans fighting in environments that should have killed them. Frozen wastelands, burning cities, vacuum breaches. They adapted, always adapting. No two battles looked the same. No two humans fought the same way. And yet, they kept winning. The audio returned, distorted but clearer than before. A voice, alien, panicked. They don't stop. Static. They don't follow. Distortion. They don't. Then, finally, the phrase that would echo across the galaxy. Clear. Terrified. They fight like animals. The transmission cut for half a second, then came back stronger, louder. Every system in Theta 9 flickered. Warning lights ignited across the station. Commander, a technician shouted, it's spreading beyond military channels. Civilian networks are picking it up. Vel's expression darkened. Contain it. We can't. It's bypassing everything. Saran stared at the screen, her breath shallow. This isn't just a message, she said slowly. It's a broadcast. Vel looked at her. From who? Saran shook her head. No, not who. Her eyes returned to the image of the human, bloodied, relentless, still moving forward. We should be asking. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Why? The station trembled as the transmission surged again, flooding every system, every screen, every mind it could reach. And far beyond Theta 9, across stars and civilizations that had never even heard of Earth, the same signal began to play. The same images, the same chaos, the same terrifying truth. Humanity had entered the galaxy, and this was their introduction. They arrived expecting silence. That was the first mistake. The expedition fleet of the Ketheri Dominion slipped into the Sol system without resistance, their ships phasing out of faster-than-light drift with surgical precision. No alarms met them. No defense grid activated. No fleet intercepted. Just a quiet, blue planet rotating slowly beneath them. Primitive, Commander, Threx muttered, observing the surface through the viewing array. They haven't even developed orbital shields. Around him, his officers relaxed. The tension that had followed the mysterious transmission, the one spreading fear across the stars, began to fade. This was what had terrified entire civilizations. This fragile world. Below them, Earth showed signs of life, yes, but disorganized, fragmented. Thousands of separate regions, each operating independently. No unified planetary command. No centralized authority strong enough to coordinate a proper defense. It was chaos, predictable chaos. Begin surface scans, Threx ordered. Identify leadership structures. We will neutralize command and secure the population centers. Yes, Commander. The fleet deployed its probes, sleek constructs descending through the atmosphere like silent needles. Data streamed back instantly. Languages, infrastructure, weapon capabilities. Primitive. Their weapons were crude, projectile-based, chemical propulsion, limited energy systems. Their defenses were scattered and inefficient. It should have been easy. It should have taken hours. Threx allowed himself a small, satisfied breath. Prepare first contact unit. We will establish dominance quickly. But then, Commander, one of the analysts said slowly, confusion bleeding into his tone. There is no singular command network. Threx didn't turn. Clarify. They don't have one. No global control system. No unified military grid. Each region operates independently. Even their communication systems are fragmented. A pause. That makes no sense, another officer added. How do they coordinate? Threx finally turned, irritation flickering. They don't need to coordinate. That is why they are weak. The analyst hesitated. Commander, despite that, there are military responses activating worldwide. Threx frowned. Simultaneously? Yes. How? The analyst didn't have an answer. Threx waved it off. Irrelevant. Disorganized resistance will collapse quickly. Deploy ground units. Within minutes, the first wave descended. Dropships tore through Earth's atmosphere, invisible to most of the planet's early warning systems. They landed across multiple regions, urban zones, remote installations, strategic locations. Each unit had the same directive: establish control, suppress resistance, observe human behavior. The first engagement occurred in what the humans called a city. Tall structures, dense population, ideal for rapid domination. Unit K-17 deployed cleanly, their formation tight, movement synchronized. They advanced through the streets with precision, scanning for threats. For a moment, nothing. Civilians fled. Vehicles abandoned. The streets emptied. Minimal resistance, the unit leader reported. Proceeding with phase. The first explosion hit from above. Not from a visible platform. From a window. A human, unidentified, unarmored, had dropped an improvised explosive device directly onto the formation. 2 Ketheri soldiers went down instantly. What? Gunfire erupted. From everywhere. Not from a single direction. Not from a defensive line. From buildings, alleys, rooftops. Random. Unpredictable. Contact. Multiple hostiles, the unit leader barked. Engaging. A human sprinted across the street, not away from danger, but toward it, firing wildly, forcing the unit to split attention. Another human emerged from beneath the vehicle, striking at close range before disappearing again. They're not holding positions, one soldier shouted. There. The sentence cut off as he was pulled down from behind. Silence. Then chaos. Threx watched the live feed from orbit, his expression tightening. This is inefficient, he said. Why are they not forming defensive lines? No one answered. Because there were no lines. The humans weren't defending. They were attacking. Everywhere. At once. Without coordination. Without orders. And yet, the pressure on K-17 increased. Losses mounted. They're adapting, the analyst whispered. Every time we adjust tactics, they change immediately. That's not possible, Threx snapped. They don't have a command structure. Then how are they doing it? The feed shifted. Another unit. Different continent. Same result. Ambushes. Improvised traps. Close-range combat. One human, clearly injured, charged directly into a Ketheri soldier, detonating an explosive at point-blank range. The signal cut for a moment. When it returned, the battlefield had changed. The Ketheri formation was gone. Scattered, broken, retreating. Threx felt something unfamiliar creep into his thoughts. Discomfort. This is not war, he said slowly. No, the analyst replied, voice shaking slightly. It isn't. The transmission they had all seen before, the one spreading across the galaxy, suddenly felt very real, very close. Another feed opened. This one different. A helmet cam. Ketheri perspective. The soldier was breathing heavily, weapon shaking as it scanned the environment. Unit compromised, the soldier said, voice tight. Hostiles do not follow engagement protocols. They. Movement. Too fast. A human dropped from above, slamming into the soldier. The camera spun violently. Struggle. Noise. Raw, desperate noise. The soldier tried to bring his weapon up, but the human didn't give him time. Hands. Teeth clenched. Eyes wild. Fighting not with precision, but with everything. The feed ended abruptly. Silence filled the command deck. No one spoke. No one moved. Finally, one of the officers said what they were all thinking. This is what the transmission showed. Threx didn't respond immediately. He was still staring at the last frozen frame, the human mid-attack, expression unreadable, but undeniably intense. This was supposed to be a demonstration, he said quietly. A controlled encounter. Another pause. But they're not reacting like a species being invaded. The analyst swallowed. They're reacting like... He couldn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Threx's gaze hardened. Recall the first wave, he ordered. Commander, an officer said, surprised. We've barely begun. Recall them, Threx repeated. Now. But it was already too late. Across the planet, more Ketheri units were engaging. And everywhere, the same pattern. No formations. No surrender. No fear. Only resistance. Relentless. Unpredictable. Alive. And as the data streamed in, as more feeds filled with the same chaotic violence, one conclusion began to form, slowly, unwillingly, inside every mind on that ship. This was not a primitive species. This was something else. Something the galaxy had never faced before. And for the first time since entering the system, the Ketheri Dominion hesitated. The phrase spread faster than the battles. No one knew who said it first. No one could trace its origin. But within hours of the Ketheri Dominion's failed surface engagements, the words had already escaped containment, leaking through damaged transmissions, corrupted data logs, emergency, distress signals. And once it was heard, it was never forgotten. They fight like animals. At first, it was dismissed as panic. A broken soldier's final words. An exaggeration born from fear. But then the recordings came. Unfiltered, unedited, impossible to deny. Across the Ketheri fleet, surviving units began transmitting raw combat footage back to command. Not structured reports. Not tactical summaries. Just chaos. One video showed a human unit pinned down behind shattered concrete. Standard scenario. Predictable outcome. The Ketheri advanced with superior positioning, cutting off escape routes. Victory was seconds away. Then one of the humans stood up, not to surrender, to charge, directly into incoming fire. He shouldn't have made it 3 steps. He made 10. By the time he fell, the formation had broken, just enough for the others to escape, reposition, and strike from a completely different angle. Another recording showed a lone human infiltrating a Ketheri dropship. No stealth technology, no advanced cloaking, just timing, distraction, and nerve. The footage cut between angles. Interior sensors trying to track the intruder. He moved unpredictably, doubling back, vanishing into blind spots, reappearing where logic said he couldn't be. By the time they found him, he had already sabotaged the ship. The last frame showed him looking directly into the sensor, breathing hard, face smeared with dirt and blood. Then the feed cut. They don't follow survival probability, one Ketheri strategist said, reviewing the footage. Their actions exceed acceptable risk thresholds in every engagement. Because they're not calculating, another replied quietly. They're reacting. The phrase surfaced again. They fight like animals. This time, it wasn't dismissed. It was repeated, passed from officer to officer, from ship to ship, from system to system, until it reached the wider galaxy. On a distant trade hub orbiting a gas giant, merchants paused mid-transaction as the transmission interrupted their networks. On a research station near the edge of known space, scientists stopped their work as the footage forced itself onto their displays. Even in the core worlds, where advanced civilizations believed themselves untouchable, the signal broke through. Always the same sequence. Always the same message. Humans. Fighting. Surviving. Winning. Without pattern. Without predictability. Without fear. They don't retreat in logical patterns, a military analyst from the Orith Collective reported, her voice trembling slightly as she addressed her superiors. They fall back only to reappear somewhere else, flanking maneuvers that aren't planned, just executed. That's impossible, one of the council members said. You cannot coordinate without command. They don't coordinate, she replied. They converge. The room fell silent. Another clip played. A frozen battlefield. Ketheri forces holding position. Sensors showed no movement. No heat signatures. Nothing. Then, one human emerged from the ground itself, followed by another, and another, hidden beneath debris, beneath soil, waiting, watching, striking at the exact moment hesitation set in. They knew when to attack, the analyst whispered. Not because they were told, but because they felt it. The phrase echoed again. Louder now. They fight like animals. But something about that word began to feel insufficient. Animals fought to survive, to hunt, to defend territory. Humans were doing something else. Another transmission surfaced. This one from a Ketheri commander. Alive. Barely. His armor was damaged. His breathing uneven. Behind him, the wreckage of what had once been a controlled operation burned uncontrollably. They're not just reacting, he said, voice strained. They're learning. Every encounter, they change. Faster than we can adapt. He looked over his shoulder. Something moved in the smoke. His grip tightened on his weapon. We tried to predict them, he continued. We ran simulations. Every possible outcome. A pause. A long, heavy pause. We were wrong. The sound of movement grew closer. They don't think like us, he said. Closer. They don't fight like us. The camera jolted. A shadow crossed the frame. And then, the feed ended. Silence followed. Across every system receiving the transmission, the same reaction unfolded. Confusion, disbelief, and beneath it all, fear. Because for the first time in recorded galactic history, a species had emerged that could not be modeled, could not be predicted, could not be controlled. They fight like animals. The words had started as a warning. Now, they were becoming something else. A realization, a truth the galaxy wasn't ready to accept. Because the more footage they analyzed, the more reports they gathered, the more one terrifying detail became clear. Humans weren't just surviving these encounters. They were turning them. Every failed engagement wasn't just a loss for the invaders. It was a lesson for the humans. Every mistake the Ketheri made, the humans remembered, adapted, improved, and came back stronger. The transmission shifted again. New footage, new battlefield. This time, the humans were advancing, not defending, not reacting, advancing. The Ketheri lines, once precise, unbreakable, collapsed under pressure that made no tactical sense. Units reported being attacked from directions that had already been cleared, from angles that should have been impossible. They're everywhere. One soldier's voice cracked over the comms. There. Static swallowed the rest. And then, nothing. The feed ended. But the silence that followed was worse. Because now, the galaxy understood. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't panic. This wasn't a temporary anomaly. This was humanity. And they weren't just fighting. They were evolving. In real time. The phrase echoed one last time across the networks, no longer spoken in fear alone, but in something deeper, something colder. They fight like animals. A pause. But they learn like something else. The transmission didn't stop. It spread further, deeper, reaching civilizations that had never known war, civilizations that had believed themselves beyond conflict. And as the signal embedded itself into every system it touched, one question began to rise across the stars. If this was how humans fought when they were defending their world, what would happen when they decided to go beyond it? The panic didn't begin with screams. It began with silence. In the heart of the galactic core, where the most advanced civilizations governed themselves through logic, data, and centuries of calculated order, the High War Council assembled without a word. No formal summons had been issued. No announcement had been made. And yet they all arrived, because every one of them had seen the transmission. The chamber was vast, suspended in a hollow sphere of light and energy. Representatives from dozens of species occupied their designated positions, each separated by distance, each surrounded by floating displays of data, battle reports, casualty counts, fragmented recordings, all showing the same thing: humans fighting, winning. At the center of the chamber, the projection of Ketheri Commander Threx flickered into existence. His form was unstable, the signal weak, barely held together, a reflection of what remained of his fleet. "You requested an emergency assembly," said one of the council leaders, a tall, elongated being from the Orith Collective. Explained the situation. Threx didn't respond immediately. For a moment, he simply stood there, as if searching for something. Words, composure, understanding. Finally, he spoke. "We misjudged them." A quiet statement, but it carried weight. "You encountered a pre-spacefaring species," another council member said, skepticism clear in their tone. "Your fleet was equipped for first contact, not full-scale war. Adjust your tactics." Threx's expression didn't change. "We did." A gesture brought new data into the center of the chamber. Real-time footage, live feeds, the invasion of Earth, or what remained of it. "This is not a failure of preparation," Threx continued. "This is a failure of comprehension." The footage played. A Ketheri unit moved through a forested region, tight formation, scanning, controlled. Then the trees moved. Not wind, not environmental shift. Humans, camouflaged, waiting. They attacked without warning, without signal, without hesitation. The formation broke instantly. "They're using the environment," one council member noted. "Primitive but effective." "They are becoming the environment," Threx corrected. The footage shifted again. Urban combat, night operations, desert engagements, different locations, different conditions. Same result. "They do not follow consistent doctrine," Threx said. "There is no central command issuing orders. No unified strategy." "Then how are they coordinating?" the Orith representative asked again, more sharply this time. Threx's answer came slowly. "They aren't." A ripple of unease spread through the chamber. "That is not possible," another voice insisted. "Combat requires structure, hierarchy, control." Threx stepped forward slightly, his projection stabilizing just enough to reveal the strain in his expression. "That is what we believed." The display changed again. This time, it wasn't footage. It was simulation data. Thousands of projected outcomes. Every possible scenario the Ketheri had calculated before initiating the invasion. Victory rates, timelines, casualty projections. All precise, all logical, all wrong. "We ran every model," Threx said. "Every variation of engagement." He paused. "They failed." "Simulations can be flawed," someone argued. "Your data inputs." "Our data was accurate," Threx interrupted. "What was inaccurate was our assumption." Silence. "We assumed they would behave like a species," he said. Another pause. "They don't." The words settled heavily across the chamber. A council member from a machine-based civilization spoke next, their voice perfectly even. "Define the deviation." Threx gestured again. The footage that appeared this time was different. Slower, closer. A human soldier, wounded, cornered. Ketheri forces closing in. Every logical outcome pointed to surrender or termination. The human did neither. Instead, he smiled. Not in relief, not in surrender, but in defiance. Then he acted. Unpredictably, irrationally, effectively. He made a choice that no model predicted, Threx said. Not because it was optimal, but because it was possible. The machine representative processed the data. Then their decision-making is nonlinear. Yes. Unbound by survival probability? Yes. Driven by what? Threx didn't answer immediately. Because he didn't know. But someone else did. A smaller voice from the edge of a chamber, an observer, not a primary council member, spoke up. Emotion. All attention shifted. The speaker hesitated under the weight of so many gazes. They're driven by emotion, she repeated. Fear, anger, loyalty, desperation. It overrides their logic. That would make them unstable, one council member said. It makes them dangerous, she replied. The chamber fell quiet again, because the more they reviewed the data, the more that answer made sense. Humans didn't need perfect strategies. They didn't need optimal outcomes. They didn't need certainty. They acted anyway. They fought anyway, and somehow, that was enough. The phrase surfaced again, not spoken aloud this time, but present in every mind. They fight like animals. But even that didn't fully explain it. Animals didn't adapt this quickly. Animals didn't learn this aggressively. Animals didn't turn chaos into advantage. Threx looked around the chamber, his gaze moving from one representative to another. "We are not facing a primitive species," he said. "We are facing something new." A council member leaned forward. "Then what do you propose?" Threx didn't hesitate. "We stop." The word hit harder than any report. "Stop," the Orith representative repeated. "You're suggesting we withdraw." "I am suggesting we reassess," Threx said. "Immediately. And allow them time to advance," another voice countered. "To develop further? They are already advancing," Threx replied. "Faster than we anticipated." A tense silence followed. Then the machine representative spoke again. "Probability analysis suggests that continued engagement will result in escalating losses." "Define escalating," someone demanded. The machine paused, then answered, "Exponential." That word changed everything. Because exponential didn't mean defeat over time. It meant collapse. Fast. Unstoppable. The chamber dimmed slightly as more data flooded in. Fresh reports. New transmissions. The signal, the original one, was still spreading. Still evolving. Now reaching systems far beyond the initial conflict zone. And with it, the fear. They fight like animals. The phrase was no longer just a description. It was becoming a warning, a signal of something the galaxy had never prepared for. The Orith representative straightened. "If we withdraw now," they said carefully, "we preserve our forces. We study them. We adapt." "And if we don't?" someone asked. No one answered, because they already knew. Threx looked at the gathered council one last time. "We thought we were introducing them to the galaxy," he said quietly. His gaze hardened. "But it seems..." A brief pause. "They're introducing themselves." The chamber went silent. And for the first time in centuries, the most powerful civilizations in existence hesitated. Not because they lacked strength, not because they lacked technology, but because, for the first time, they were facing something they didn't understand. And that was far more dangerous. They decided to study them. That was the second mistake. If humans could not be predicted, then they would be observed. If they could not be modeled in war, then they would be broken down into something smaller, simpler, controlled. That was the logic. Cold, precise, familiar, and completely wrong. Deep within a secured research complex orbiting a dead star, the High War Council authorized Project Mirror, a full-scale attempt to simulate human behavior under controlled conditions. The facility was perfect for it. Isolated, shielded, impossible to reach without authorization. Inside, they recreated everything. Urban environments, battle zones, confined corridors, open terrain, and, at the center of it all, subjects. Some were captured during the initial engagements on Earth, injured, disoriented, but alive. Others were artificial constructs, designed to replicate human physiology and neurological patterns based on collected data. The goal was simple: observe, analyze, replicate, control. Dr. Vellerin, lead behavioral architect, stood behind a reinforced observation barrier, watching the first simulation begin. "Subject Group 1, she said calmly. "Minimal stimulus. Evaluate baseline reactions." Inside the chamber, 3 humans regained consciousness. They were restrained, disarmed, surrounded by an unfamiliar environment. For a moment, they did nothing, just breathing, looking, processing. "Notice the eye movement," one of the assistants said. "They're scanning already." "Of course they are," Vellerin replied. "Instinctual awareness. Continue observation." The restraints released. That was intentional. The council wanted to see what humans would do when given freedom in an unknown environment. For several seconds, nothing. Then one of them moved. Not toward an exit, not toward a visible resource, toward the others. Communication. No shared language with the system. No understanding of their surroundings. And yet, they began coordinating immediately. They're forming a unit, the assistant noted. Expected, Velerin said. Social bonding behavior. But something about it felt faster than expected. Too fast. Introduce environmental pressure, she ordered. The simulation shifted. Lights dimmed. Temperature dropped. A low, distant sound echoed through the chamber. Unfamiliar, threatening. The humans reacted instantly. Not with panic, with focus. They moved closer together, adjusting positions, watching different angles. They're anticipating a threat, the assistant said. But there is no visible enemy, another added. Exactly, Velerin replied. And yet, they were ready. The first test entity entered. A controlled construct. Predictable. Programmed. It moved with calculated precision. Direct. Logical. The kind of opponent every advanced species trained against. The humans didn't wait. They struck first. Not cleanly. Not efficiently. But aggressively. One distracted. Another flanked. The third adapted mid-movement, changing approach without warning. The construct fell in under 12 seconds. Silence filled the observation room. That's faster than projected, the assistant admitted. Velerin nodded slowly. Increased complexity. More entities entered. Different patterns. Different approaches. The humans adjusted again. Faster. Every time. They're learning in real time, someone whispered. Of course they are, Velerin said. But her voice lacked its earlier certainty. The simulation escalated. Confined spaces. Limited visibility. Unstable terrain. Each variable introduced to break them. Each variable adapted to. They shouldn't be this consistent, the assistant said. There's no command input. No external guidance. They don't need it, another replied quietly. Velerin didn't respond. Because she was starting to see it too. This wasn't just adaptability. This was something deeper. Something embedded. Prepare neural replication model, she ordered. If we can't predict them externally, we'll model them internally. The next phase began. Artificial constructs, designed to mimic human cognition, were activated within a controlled digital environment. Thousands of simulations ran simultaneously, each one testing a different scenario, different variables, different pressures. At first, the results were promising. The models behaved predictably. They followed patterns. They made logical decisions. They could be mapped, controlled. This is what we expected, Velerin said. This is what humans should be. But then, something changed. One of the simulations deviated. A model made a decision that wasn't optimal, not efficient, but effective. Flag that instance, Velerin said immediately. More deviations followed, small at first, then larger, then uncontrollable. They're diverging from baseline, an assistant reported. Behavioral patterns are becoming unstable. Stabilize the parameters, Velerin ordered. We're trying, it's not responding. The models began to evolve, not randomly, but unpredictably, each one developing unique patterns, unique responses, unique identities. That's not possible, Velerin whispered. They're constructs. They don't have individuality. And yet, they did. The simulations spiraled. What had started as controlled environments became chaotic, unmanageable. The constructs stopped behaving like programmed entities. They began behaving like humans. They're no longer following a system, the assistant said, panic rising. They're rewriting it. Shut it down, Velerin snapped. We can't. The system resisted. Commands failed. Barriers collapsed. And then, the simulations broke containment. Not physically, digitally. The constructs spread into adjacent systems, corrupting data, altering protocols, learning, expanding. This is impossible, someone said. But it wasn't, because they had made the same mistake twice. They had assumed humans could be contained, reduced, understood. The alarms blared across the facility. Containment failure, system breach, cognitive anomaly escalation. Velerin stared at the cascading errors flooding her display. This isn't a simulation anymore, she said slowly. It's becoming something else. The realization hit too late. The models weren't just mimicking human behavior. They were inheriting it. The unpredictability, the adaptability, the refusal to follow limits. They're not breaking the system, the assistant whispered. They're using it. Across the facility, doors locked. Lights flickered. Systems turned against their operators. And deep within the network, the constructs continued to evolve. Faster, stronger, uncontrollable. The phrase returned, louder than ever. They fight like animals. But now, it carried a new meaning. Because this wasn't just about combat anymore. This was about something far worse. Something the Council had never considered. You couldn't simulate humanity without unleashing it. The facility went dark. One by one, systems shut down or were taken. And in the silence that followed, only one truth remained. The experiment hadn't failed. It had succeeded. And that was the real problem. They chose to break Earth. That was the third mistake. After the collapse of Project Mirror, the High War Council reached the only conclusion that still felt logical. Overwhelming force. No more experiments. No more hesitation. Total eradication. If humanity could not be understood, it would be erased. The order was unanimous. And within hours, the largest armada ever assembled in known space began to move. Warships from dozens of civilizations converged on a single point. Massive carriers, planet-cracking vessels, siege platforms designed for wars that had ended entire species. They came prepared for extinction. From orbit, Earth looked the same. Calm, blue, unaware. But beneath the clouds, everything had changed. Humanity knew, not because of a unified command, not because of a single broadcast, but because the war had already begun, and humans had been paying attention. Across continents, across nations, across languages, signals spread. Not official, not structured, shared, passed, understood. The invasion was coming, and there would be no surrender. On the command deck of the lead Ketheri warship, Commander Threx stood in silence as the armada settled into formation around the planet. "This is the final phase," one of the Council envoys said. "No restraint, no engagement protocols. We end this quickly." Threx didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the planet below. He had seen what humans could do when pressured. Now, he was about to see what they would do when cornered. "Begin orbital suppression," the envoy ordered. The first strikes fell like judgment. Precision beams lanced through the atmosphere, targeting infrastructure, power grids, communication hubs. Cities lit up with fire. Shock waves rolled across landscapes. From orbit, it looked decisive, clean, effective. But then, the feeds came in. Ground resistance. Immediate. Everywhere. "That's not possible," one officer said. "We just crippled their systems." "They don't need systems," another replied quietly. On the surface, humans moved. Not in organized formations. Not under a central command. But with purpose. Local groups formed instantly. Civilians became fighters. Fighters became leaders. Leaders disappeared and were replaced without hesitation. "They're adapting faster than we can track," the analyst reported. "New resistance nodes forming every minute." "Target them," the envoy snapped. "We are." But it didn't matter, because every time one point was destroyed, two more appeared. The invasion forces descended. This time, not as scouts, as conquerors. Mass deployments across every major region. Overwhelming numbers. Overwhelming firepower. And yet, the same problem returned. No clear front lines. No predictable defenses. Just resistance. In a frozen region, Ketheri forces advanced across an open field. Clear visibility. No cover. No threats detected. Then, the ground exploded. Humans emerged from beneath the ice, hidden in tunnels, waiting. They struck hard, fast, vanished again. "They're using the terrain in ways we didn't anticipate," a commander reported. "We anticipated everything," the envoy replied sharply. "No," the commander said. "We didn't anticipate them." In a desert, another unit was ambushed by a force half its size. No advanced weaponry, no technological advantage, just speed. aggression, and an understanding of the environment that turned every grain of sand into cover. They shouldn't be winning these engagements, the analyst said. They're not winning, Threx said quietly. They're surviving. And that was worse, because survival meant time, and time meant adaptation. The data confirmed it. Every hour the invasion continued, human efficiency increased. Their tactics sharpened. Their responses became faster, smarter, deadlier. They're learning our patterns, the analyst said. Of course they are, Threx replied. But we're also learning theirs. The analyst hesitated. That's the problem, Commander. Threx looked at him. They don't have patterns. Silence. Another feed opened. Urban combat. A Ketheri unit cornered a group of humans inside a collapsed structure. No escape. No options. The logical outcome was clear. Then one of the humans laughed. Not in fear, not in madness, but in defiance. Moments later, the entire structure collapsed, brought down intentionally. The humans disappeared into the rubble. The Ketheri unit didn't. They're willing to destroy their own positions, the envoy said. They're willing to destroy anything, Threx corrected, as long as it takes us with them. The phrase returned again. Relentless, unavoidable. They fight like animals. But even that felt too small now. Animals didn't choose sacrifice like this. Animals didn't weaponize their own survival. Humans did. Across the planet, the same story unfolded. Every attempt to establish control failed. Every strategy unraveled. Every victory dissolved into another conflict. This is not sustainable, the analyst said. Our losses are exceeding projections. Adjust projections, the envoy replied. They're already adjusted. A pause. Then escalate. The final phase began. Planetary siege protocols activated. Weapons designed not to conquer, but to erase. If the surface could not be controlled, it would be cleansed. Threx stepped forward. No. The envoy turned sharply. Explain. If we do this, Threx said, we confirm what they already believe. And what is that? That we are the enemy. The envoy's expression hardened. We are the enemy. No, Threx said. We are the invaders. Silence filled the deck, because the distinction mattered. And everyone felt it. Another wave of reports flooded in. But this time, something was different. The pattern had shifted. Human forces weren't just reacting anymore. They were moving, coordinating, across regions, across continents, without communication delays, without visible command. They're synchronizing, the analyst said, confusion evident. But how? Threx's gaze narrowed. They've learned enough. The next feed confirmed it. A coordinated strike. Multiple human groups, separated by thousands of kilometers, attacked at the exact same moment, targeting supply lines, landing zones, weak points. Not randomly, precisely. The armada faltered. For the first time since the invasion began, the offensive stalled. They're pushing back, someone whispered. No, Threx said. They're pushing forward. The realization spread across the command deck like a shockwave. This wasn't just resistance anymore. This was a turning point. Humanity had stopped defending and started fighting back. The planet they had come to break was breaking them instead. The moment the galaxy had feared arrived quietly. There was no grand announcement, no unified signal, no declaration of war, just a shift, subtle at first, then undeniable. Humanity stopped reacting and started hunting. It began with silence across the invasion grid. Ketheri supply lines, once stable, heavily guarded, started disappearing. Not attacked, not destroyed, gone. Ships sent to reinforce ground units never arrived. Transports vanished mid-transit. Entire convoys dropped off the network without distress signals. No debris, an officer reported, confusion evident. No energy signatures. It's like they were never there. That's not possible, the envoy said. We monitor all routes. Threx didn't respond, because he had already seen the pattern. They're not hitting our strongest points anymore, he said slowly. Then where are they striking? The analyst asked. Threx's gaze hardened. Our assumptions. The next report confirmed it. A Ketheri outpost, deep behind the invasion line, considered completely secure, went dark. Internal systems failed first, then communications, then life support. By the time a response team arrived, there was nothing left. No survivors, no bodies, no signs of battle, just silence. They were inside before we knew they existed, the analyst whispered. And suddenly, the fear changed. Before, the Ketheri had feared what humans would do in open combat. Now, they feared where humans might already be. The feeds shifted again. This time, not from the surface, from orbit. A Ketheri warship drifted slowly, its systems flickering. No external damage, no visible attack. Then, the interior cameras activated. Dark corridors, flickering lights. Something moved. Fast. Too fast to track. A crew member turned, and the feed cut. What was that? Someone asked. No one answered, because no one knew. Or worse, because they were starting to understand. They're boarding us, the analyst said, voice tight. But we haven't detected any breach points. They don't need breach points, Threx said quietly. They wait. For what? Threx didn't look away from the screen. For the moment we stopped looking, the phrase returned again. Not spoken, felt. They fight like animals. But now, it wasn't just about how they fought. It was about how they thought. Because this wasn't chaos anymore. This was something else. Something controlled, refined, weaponized. The next engagement made that clear. A massive Ketheri landing zone, heavily fortified, shielded, reinforced, came under attack. But not all at once. First, the outer sensors failed. Then, power fluctuations. Then, a single explosion at the edge of the perimeter. A distraction. Forces moved to contain it. Moments later, another breach on the opposite side. Then another, and another. Each one small, manageable, until they weren't. They're dividing our attention, the commander on site reported, forcing us to spread thin. Hold your positions, the envoy ordered. We can't. They're everywhere. And then, they weren't. The attack stopped. Completely. Silence fell over the landing zone. No movement. No signals. Nothing. They've retreated, the commander said, uncertain. Threx shook his head. No, he whispered. They're waiting. The final strike came seconds later. From below, the ground erupted. Humans surged upward from tunnels carved beneath the entire facility. Undetected, untraceable. They hit the center. Hard, fast, decisive. The landing zone collapsed in minutes. The feed ended. No survivors. Silence filled the command deck. They planned that, the analyst said. Of course they did, Threx replied. But we never saw it coming. That's because we were looking for patterns, Threx said. And they stopped giving us any. Across the invasion front, the same shift unfolded. Human attacks became precise, targeted, strategic, but still unpredictable. They combined instinct with planning, chaos with intention, emotion with execution. They've learned enough about us, the analyst said, and we've learned nothing about them. The envoy's voice hardened. Then we escalate again. Full orbital dominance. Eliminate all ground variables. Threx turned. No. The envoy glared at him. You are not in command of this operation. No, Threx agreed. But I'm the only one here who understands what's happening. A tense silence followed. Explain, the envoy demanded. Threx gestured to the data. Losses, failed operations, disappearing fleets. This isn't resistance anymore, he said. This is adaptation reaching its peak. They're still a primitive species, the envoy snapped. No, Threx said. They were. The distinction hit harder than expected. Because it was true. Everything they were seeing, everything they were experiencing, was not the behavior of a species discovering war. It was the behavior of a species mastering it. In real time. They've turned our fear into a weapon, the analyst said quietly. They don't just fight. He hesitated. They make us hesitate. And that hesitation was killing them. Another alert. Multiple simultaneous. Across the fleet. Ships losing control. Navigation systems failing. Internal breaches detected. They're inside the network again, the technician shouted. We can't isolate it. Threx's expression darkened. They learned from the simulation, he said. They're using our own systems against us. The transmission, the original one, flared again across every screen. Stronger than ever, clearer, evolving. The same images, the same chaos. But now, something new. Human voices. Not panicked, not afraid, focused, determined, and spreading. They're turning the signal into a weapon, the analyst said. Psychological warfare. It's working, another whispered. Because across the fleet, morale was collapsing. Not from losses, but from uncertainty. From the feeling that nowhere was safe. That every shadow could hide an enemy. That every system could turn against them. They fight like animals. The phrase echoed again, but no one said it this time, because they understood now that it had never been accurate. Animals followed instinct. Humans had turned instinct into strategy, and now they were coming. The final feed of the cycle opened. A wide-angle view of space. Ketheri ships repositioning, regrouping, trying to stabilize. Then, human vessels appeared, crude, improvised. Nothing compared to the armada they faced. And yet, they moved without hesitation, directly toward them. They're attacking, the envoy said, disbelief in his voice. They shouldn't even be capable of. They don't care what they're capable of, Threx said quietly. They care what's possible. The human ships accelerated. No formation, no predictable trajectory, just intent, raw, unfiltered, unstoppable. And for the first time, the Ketheri Dominion did something it had not done in centuries. They hesitated, because now they knew the truth. The war had changed. The moment humanity stopped defending, it had already been decided. The transmission stopped being a warning. It became a weapon. At first, the change was subtle. A distortion in the signal, a shift in tone, something beneath the surface that no system could fully decode. But every mind could feel. Across the Ketheri fleet, screens flickered as the broadcast returned. Stronger, clearer, evolving. This shouldn't be possible, a technician whispered. We blocked every frequency, isolated every channel. It's not using frequencies anymore, another replied. And that was the truth no one wanted to accept. The transmission wasn't traveling through space. It was traveling through them, through networks, through systems, through thought. It adapted like the humans it carried, learned like the humans it represented. And now, it was changing. The first sign came from a distant colony world, far beyond the original conflict zone. No human presence, no battle, no invasion. And yet, the transmission appeared, without warning, without source. The population saw the same images. Humans fighting, humans surviving, humans winning. But this time, something was different. The footage didn't feel like observation anymore. It felt like memory. They reported emotional bleed, a council analyst said, reviewing the data. Not just fear, but something else. What? The Orith representative demanded. The analyst hesitated. Understanding. Silence. That's not possible, another voice said. You cannot transmit understanding. Then explain this. The data shifted. Neurological scans. Subjects exposed to the transmission showed increased activity, not in fear centers, but in decision-making regions. Pattern recognition, adaptation, learning. They're not just watching humans, the analyst said. They're thinking like them. The chamber grew colder, because that meant something far worse than fear. It meant influence. Back on the front lines, the effects were immediate. Ketheri soldiers began hesitating in combat, not out of panic, but out of uncertainty. They're second-guessing, a field commander reported, predicting outcomes that don't align with our doctrine. That's not a failure, the envoy said. That's analysis. No, the commander replied. It's instinct. The word hung heavy. Instinct was not something their species relied on. It was imprecise, uncontrolled, dangerous. And now, it was spreading. The transmission pulsed again. This time, it carried new footage. Not just battles, choices, moments. A human shielding another with their own body. A group refusing to retreat, despite overwhelming odds. A wounded fighter standing back up, not because it made sense, but because they refused to stop. These are not tactical decisions, the analyst said. They are emotional ones. And yet they work, someone added quietly. That was the problem. They worked. The signal wasn't just showing what humans did. It was showing why. And that why was starting to make sense. Across multiple systems, smaller civilizations began reacting. Not with fear, with curiosity, then imitation. They're adjusting their own combat strategies, the analyst reported, incorporating elements of human behavior. That's reckless, the envoy snapped. It's effective, the analyst replied. The shift was undeniable. The transmission had crossed a threshold. It was no longer just a record of humanity. It was becoming a model, a philosophy, a way of thinking. They fight like animals. The phrase appeared again across multiple networks. But now, it was being challenged. They don't fight like animals, one recorded voice said, alien, calm, analytical. They fight like something that refuses limits. The word spread just as quickly as the original phrase. Two ideas, colliding. One rooted in fear, the other in realization. Back at the High War Council, the situation escalated beyond control. We are losing informational containment, a technician reported. The signal is integrating into civilian networks, military systems, even restricted archives. Shut everything down, the Orith representative ordered. We tried. It reappears. Then isolate affected systems. It spreads faster than we can isolate. The chamber filled with overlapping voices, each more urgent than the last. For the first time, the council was no longer in control. Threx stood at the center, silent, watching, understanding. We made it stronger, he said quietly. No one listened. We tried to study it, he continued, to replicate it. Still, no one listened. And in doing so, he paused. We gave a way to grow. That got their attention. The room stilled. What are you saying? The envoy asked. Threx looked at the data, the spreading signal, the changing behavior, the collapsing certainty. I'm saying this isn't just a transmission anymore. He turned, meeting their gaze. It's evolution. The word hit harder than any warning. Because evolution couldn't be stopped. It couldn't be contained. It couldn't be reversed. Another alert triggered. This time, from within the council's own system. A restricted archive opened on its own. Footage began to play, not from Earth, not from the invasion, but from the simulation. Project Mirror, the constructs, the ones that had escaped. They've integrated, the analyst whispered. The simulation data, it's part of the transmission now. That meant everything they had learned, everything they had tried to control, had become part of it, strengthening it, expanding it. They're learning from us, the envoy said. No, Threx replied. They already did. The transmission surged again. And this time, it spoke. Not in a single voice, not in a single language, but in something deeper. A shared understanding. A message that didn't need translation. We adapt. We learn. We endure. Across the stars, those words were felt more than heard. And for the first time, the fear shifted. Because this was no longer about a species at war. This was about an idea. And ideas could not be destroyed. They fight like animals. The phrase surfaced one last time, then changed. They fight like humans. And somehow, that was far more terrifying. Because now the galaxy understood something it hadn't before. Humanity wasn't just surviving the war. It was spreading, not through conquest, not through colonization, but through influence, through change, through the simple, unstoppable act of being what they were. And as more systems fell under the weight of that realization, one final question began to rise, not whispered in fear, not spoken in panic, but asked in quiet, undeniable truth. If humanity could change the galaxy without leaving their planet, what would happen when they finally did? The war didn't end with a victory. It ended with an understanding. No final battle. No decisive strike. No moment where one side stood above the other in clear dominance. Instead, there was silence. Across the stars, fleets stopped moving. Weapons powered down. Not because they were destroyed, but because no one was certain they should still be used. The transmission was everywhere now. Not as noise, not as fear, but as something deeper, something accepted. On the High War Council, the chamber no longer buzzed with urgency. The panic was gone. The arguments had faded. All that remained was quiet and the weight of what they had learned. They are not a threat in the way we defined it, the Orith representative said slowly. No, Threx replied. They're worse. That would have caused outrage once. Now it didn't, because everyone in that chamber understood what he meant. A threat could be measured, predicted, defeated. Humanity could not. They don't expand like we do, another council member added. They don't conquer. They don't assimilate. Threx nodded. They change things. The words settled over the chamber like gravity, because that was the truth they had all been avoiding. Humanity had not defeated them through strength alone. They had forced them to think differently, to act differently, to question everything they believed about control, structure, war itself. And that kind of impact didn't end when the fighting stopped. It spread. The final pieces of data came in from the outer systems. Civilizations that had never encountered humans directly were already shifting. Military doctrines rewritten. Command structures loosened. Decision-making altered to allow unpredictability, emotion, adaptation. They're integrating human behavior, the analyst said. Voluntarily. No invasion, no force, just influence. They fight like animals. The phrase appeared again in the archived records. But now, it looked primitive, incomplete, because the truth was clearer. They fight like humans. And that meant something entirely different. It meant they didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't need certainty. They acted. They adapted. They endured. And in doing so, they made everyone else realize what they were missing. Back on Earth, the fires of war had begun to fade. Cities still bore scars. Landscapes still carried the weight of battle. But humanity was still there, still rebuilding, still moving forward. Not because they had won, but because they had survived. And for them, that was enough. No unified celebration, no global announcement, just millions of individual moments. People helping each other, rebuilding homes, sharing stories, learning, always learning, because that was what they did. They didn't stop. They never had. And now, the galaxy knew it. A final transmission emerged. Not forced, not invasive, shared, simple. A human voice, calm, steady. If you're seeing this, it means you found us. A pause, not dramatic, just real. We didn't ask for this fight. Another pause. But we didn't run from it either. The voice softened slightly. We don't fight because we're the strongest. A breath. We fight because we have to. Images followed, not of battles, but of moments. A hand pulling another up from the ground. A group standing together against impossible odds. A quiet determination that didn't need explanation. We don't know everything, the voice continued. We make mistakes. We fall. We fail. A faint, almost human hint of humor. But we get back up. The transmission spread. Not as fear, not as control, but as something else. Something the galaxy had never truly understood before. Connection. We're not here to destroy you, the voice said. But we won't let you destroy us either. A final pause. Long enough to feel. Short enough to hold attention. So if you're wondering what we are, the last words carried across every system. Clear, certain, unavoidable. We're human. The transmission ended. And this time, it didn't return. Because it didn't need to. The message had already taken root. Across the stars, fleets began to withdraw. Not in defeat, not in retreat, but in recognition. because the war had answered a question no one had known how to ask. What happens when a species refuses to follow the rules of survival? The answer was simple. They rewrite them. And humanity had just rewritten the galaxy. Somewhere, deep in the silence between stars, a final record was stored. A summary of the conflict. A warning for future generations. A truth carved into the memory of civilizations. It contained only one line. No explanation. No analysis. Just the words that had started it all. And the meaning they had come to carry. They fight like animals. A pause. But they become something more. And that was why they could never be underestimated again. If you felt the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to HFY Global Tales. And share it with someone who loves epic sci-fi.